Drilling fluids touch just about everything in the drilling process. We're here to deconstruct the drilling process and drilling fluid concepts to provide a deeper understanding of our industry. In each episode, we'll share information, talk to interesting people, and maybe share a few stories along the way. Welcome to the Flowline, a production of AES Drilling Fluids, brought to you by Matt Offenbacher and Justin Gauthier.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Flowline. Here with my lovely co-host, and for those watching, you may notice a little something different here. We've got our minimalist mic stands, which is very nice. Just trying to improve like we do in drilling fluids, but we also try to improve our studio and performance here behind the mic.
Yes.
And so there's always again, and because podcasting is such a popular medium in terms of content and business and. There's a lot of cool stuff out there that you can create nice little studios. And so here we are with the new mic stands. Probably doesn't sound much different, but it feels great.
Yes, I feel so free.
Right. The only thing would be is like going fully wireless. I think would be the next iteration of improvements. But nonetheless, I am not complaining. I love it. And a big shout out to Matt for getting these little guys. Matt, what's the latest and greatest, man? Anything fun and exciting? I mean, I could always throw out the Astros question, and so
that's a tough question to answer right now.
Okay.
They could be doing better, although I will say over the long weekend, went to the game, and with my 7-year-old and my 3-year-old, we sat in the 300 section, which was a great view of the train, and the train became the centerpiece where we made it through all 9 innings.
Yeah.
Because there were a couple of home runs hit in the game, and the train moves forward, and the kids loved that. And there were a lot of stolen bases, which my oldest thought was hilarious.
Okay.
So at least it was a pleasant Monday afternoon.
Heck yeah.
Afternoon
game, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't it Sunday and Monday afternoon games?
Yes.
Oh,
so
perfect for the family.
Absolutely. Like, that's the thing, is I really want to take my kid to a game, and then I'd look, and it'd be like, sometimes the Saturday games will be at 3, but a lot of them aren't until 6. And I'm like, we start getting ready for bed at like 7:15.
Yeah.
So
no, it's that's great. It sounds like the boys had a good time. They made it past it was funny. I remember you were mentioning it to one of our coworkers about how your son just could not wait for the train, but that was like his highlight, is like watching the train, right? And
yes.
So he like made it through the full 9 innings.
Well, for a 3-year-old, it like, obviously there's lights, and they do some good sort of side bits. There's also every time there's a strikeout, there's like an astronaut that plants a flag with the number of strikeouts.
Yeah.
And like they have a different animation each time, and so my son thinks those are fun. My oldest thinks those are really funny.
Yeah.
So like they have some things that I never, like as an adult, don't think about.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, "Oh, cool,"
Yeah.
So, but the train got a lot out of that, and it like blows off smoke whenever somebody scores a run, and so there were a lot of runs scored. So
that's awesome.
That worked out.
Cool.
Yeah, and Luis Garcia pitched for the first time in like 2 years.
Oh,
and I think he is just a wonderful person, super chill dude, and like just very happy for him that he had a good outing.
Cool. That's awesome.
So yeah,
great experience.
There's something. I mean, you're just like trying to catch up on sleep, I gather, though.
Yeah, it's again the grind continues at the baby front. She's doing well though. At the end of the day, all you can ask for is a healthy baby.
Yeah.
She's doing what any healthy baby should be doing, is eating a lot and then crying when she's hungry, and lots of diaper changes. So it's just you don't going from 2 to 3. There's zone defense and this and that, but perfect examples, like we get home from practice last night. My son had football, my daughter had softball. Again, I don't know why a 6-year-old's practice ends at like 8. But it does, and so by the time you get home, eat dinner, bath, and all the rest of it, it's like close to 10 o'clock.
Wow.
And so get home with their practices ended around the same time, and then it's like normally to get home, it's like, okay, I tackle maybe getting them bathed and like making sure they're getting ready for bed while my wife like kind of preps dinner and stuff. Well, we get home and my wife goes directly to the couch and starts feeding the baby, and it's like, okay guys, I need you to like do this, and hey, can you help with that? And so like I'm orchestrating the entire evening routine, and which is not bad. It's like much more time consuming. And so then it's just like things drag on, and then they want to play and fight and then give me a hard time, and it's just like, so it's trying to I guess, come to the grips of things are just not going to be as easy.
Yeah.
To like, as simple as let's get to bed, because mom is like tied down to feeding, and so dad's left doing it, and I'm scrambling trying to get dinner and stuff together, and so it's just things trying to adjust to that is a bit challenging, especially knowing like in my mind they're kids and they're very busy with athletics, and so I'm like they need their 10 to 12 hours of sleep, and like the later it gets the more anxious I get. I'm like, you guys, we need to get to bed, and because in my mind I'm like, well, they got practice tonight again, and then so like I get like kind of like wound up thinking like they're gonna not get good rest, and then their recovery, and then they're gonna be tired, and then school's gonna suffer, and then they're gonna get sick, like that's where my mind goes. So I'm always like trying to be conscious of just staying in order at home. But anyway, that was a long way of saying it's busy, but we're making it work, and eventually, like babies don't feed as often, and they can sit there and not have to be held for 20 hours a day.
It all changes, but it's crazy. And I mean, I remember, my youngest is 3, and there's still just stuff where you're like, is it going to be like this forever?
Right.
And then you miss it after, So, anyways, parenting stuff.
Yeah. But for those who don't have kids and who probably don't care, then hopefully you fast forwarded it till roughly 6 minutes where we actually start talking about drilling fluids. But I appreciate you asking. It's always fun to talk about it, and for those who've listened for a long time, you kind of know our lives and what we're doing on the home front. But nonetheless, Matt, let's dive in today. Good topic, and actually, I always close out each episode by saying the same thing, but I'm going to start off by saying, any of the listeners out there, if you could, please reach out and ask any questions with regards to drilling fluids, mud obviously, drilling operations, anything to do with just the mud world, maybe the drilling world. Some of the best episodes come from questions, and so this episode particularly came from someone reaching out to you on LinkedIn, I believe, or to us, and basically asked, what does it take to be successful in mud school? And so that'd be a good idea to answer the question, but then also kind of elaborate on, what mud school is like and what kind of your experience was with it and mine. And because I feel like everyone who went to mud school has a slightly different experience with a very similar outcome in a way. But anyway, it's a good question. And what do you think? We should dive in.
Yeah, I think, and I mean, just think about the mindset of, you don't know, you're on the other side of it. I've never been through it. It's this common experience many of us have if we've worked in the field.
Yeah.
But like everything for being a mud engineer is ahead of me. And like how do I make sure I have a successful career? And like this first big rite of passage is mud school. But I think to kick this one off, I mean, so how long was your mud school?
So it was 8 weeks, and mine was slightly different than a lot. Most of the folks that we work with went to mud school for, a major service provider, like, the Schlumberger or MI or Halliburton's or Baker's or, whoever else is out there. I actually went to the first FMI mud school, which, was put on by a gentleman. Many of the mud engineers out at AES did it with us at Richard Lantier when he was here. He taught mud school, and so it was the first kick of the can up in Grandview, Texas, and it was 8 weeks, which I think is short relative to some others.
So mine was, I think, 8 or 9 weeks.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, it was. I think it was 9 weeks.
Okay.
And I think. So mine was with one of the bigger service companies. I was at MI at the time, and I mean, I guess a few things of the dynamic. So for mine, like the price of oil was way up. This was 2005 or whatever. So they had at least 4 mud schools going on that year, and I think we had probably 80 people in our class. Like it was huge. It was all over the world, people coming in, and so I mean, one part of it was obviously getting to meet people from I don't know, just all walks of life, Venezuelan guys. I'll never forget, there were a couple of guys from Algeria, and there was a guy from Yemen. And I don't know why, but I was like walking out to my car, and I had a cowboy hat on. And like this guy runs up to me, and he's like, I see you're in your customary dressing. No way. I've always this always stuck in my head. But it was a very broad group.
So
some guys had been derrick hands.
Yeah.
Some people had actually worked as mud engineers already, and this was like hey, we need to get you through the formal thing.
Okay.
So it was a broad swath both of kind of nationalities, experience, that kind of thing. And I guess for yours, what did it look like as far as did a lot of people with rig experience were there, or how did it break down?
Yeah, no, it's similar in a sense, but no international type folks coming. It was very sort of domestic, even like mostly Texas.
From Canada.
Well,
so
I guess technically I was the
international representative.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but yeah, and it was sort of hand-picked, right? Because it was the first sort of cohort of the, I guess, AES, FMI type mud school. And so I would say, probably 15-20% were former rig hands. Some folks, like, I think there was like 2 or 3 of us that maybe had worked in drilling fluids, maybe just 2 of us. And then, there were some petroleum engineers, a couple of them. And then there was a few that had come in that had no oil field experience that unfortunately didn't last very long. One was a used car salesman. Yeah, I'm not sure that didn't work out too well. But actually, no. I would say majority, probably half, were actually rig hands.
Okay.
That had sort of been handpicked from FMI to say, hey, you want to be a mud engineer? You've expressed interest, and so yeah, it was cool because we all were cut from similar cloth, which was neat because it created like a very party animal-esque vibe.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, so that was ours. Yeah.
So, and about how many people was that?
I want to say probably no more than 25. Probably
okay.
20 or so.
That's still a pretty healthy size group to spend that much time together,
Yeah. No, you make a good point. Spending that much time in a hotel studying and then going out and eating and to the bars after, it's you get to know people personally pretty well, which is cool because then you develop these long-term relationships. Like a lot of the guys I went to mud school with, there's sort of that brotherhood vibe. Whenever you see each other, it's kind of like you 10 years hasn't passed quite. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's crazy. There's not that many guys I think that are still in the industry, even from my huge class, but there are a couple of them still out there. 80 or 90. It was huge.
Jeez. Oh, that's right. Yeah, you mentioned 80.
And granted, a lot of them were international and just harder to keep in touch or what have you. But there's a mud engineer that we work with here at AES, who I was in the same mud school as.
Oh, no way.
There's one guy at one of our customers who I was in mud school with. It's kind of funny who sticks around, I guess, and where you end up with that. But
what's your favorite memory from mud school?
I don't know. It was just really interesting for me because it was all like new and different. My first real job, like I graduated from college.
Yeah.
I had a couple of months in the summer where I traveled a bit, and then it was like, got on an airplane from Asia, was home for 2 days, and then started mud school.
Yeah.
I didn't really know what to expect, and I think I also had sort of the, my dad was in the industry, and I think he was working back then as well still, but I think he was like trying to get me prepared and that sort of thing, but I had no rig experience. I didn't have time to do like a ride along or anything, which they like to do before. You follow a mud engineer for a few weeks, maybe do a mud check yourself, so you're sort of primed up. I didn't get a chance to do any of that.
Okay.
Basically, and so I think a lot of it I was just sort of like overwhelmed and trying to make sense of what to do and what comes next.
Right.
And so I remember being really jet lagged. I think I remember just the instructors and kind of, there are a few kind of, we had 3 or 4 instructors. And so we had, one guy from Oklahoma who cracked a lot of jokes about being from Oklahoma. We had kind of a straight shooter. And then we had kind of a, he always wanted to say, well, it depends, and it was like, dude, no, just give me a yes or a no. Like I'm trying to, figure things out here. So I don't know if I have like some overarching memory. Those are sort of broad. Like, do you have a great, kind of story or?
Yeah, so I have 6 distinct memories, 2 of which I will not disclose. The one, so being from Canada, and I'm not from rural Canada. I come from the city, and so of course I didn't come prepared with cool cowboy boots. And the entire time they bugged me about going and buying cowboy boots. And so one time we drove into Fort Worth, and then we went to Cavender's, and I was like, guys, like my skinny jeans aren't going to fit over these cowboy boots. It's not going to work. And they're like, well, don't worry. We can get you, when you go to the rig, we'll get you some steel-toed cowboy boots. And I was like, I didn't realize cowboy boots came steel-toed. And so I was like, yeah, if there's steel-toed cowboy boots, yeah, sure, I'll get them. And they're like, oh, okay, we go. So they bought me some steel-toed cowboy boots, and they're the ugliest things in the world. So that stood out because I felt like it was a rite of passage to wear cowboy boots. And they fell apart not too long after that because they weren't good quality. But it was cool because I got to, get my cowboy boot experience on. Another one was we were doing mud checks in the mud lab, and I refused to try chewing tobacco because I knew what it did to me years ago. And they forced me to. I say forced me. They highly encouraged me to do it. I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. And it was peach flavored. I thought it would be cool. Ended up, kind of like gagging all over the mud lab, sort of puking in a bucket. That was funny.
Yeah.
And then the third one that really stood out was riding along, and I'd never seen someone eat peanuts and Coke in a bottle together for breakfast. So that was interesting. I guess it was a Texas thing. Obviously, none of this had to do with mud, but the point I'm trying to make is these memories that you get with the people you do it with, it's just some of those things like you kind of have to embrace.
Yeah.
It's just those quirky things. And I, in a way, somewhat being comical, but one of the memories that actually had to do with drilling fluids, which was pretty cool, is at the time we were working for a customer up in the Barnett, and they had kind of tasked the instructor to create a product, which then we were able to be part of. So the whole cohort was part of doing some experimental product development for an LCM that we were trying to design. It was a cross-link polymer, and I don't remember exactly what the outcome was, but we got to kind of see the life cycle of developing a product for a customer.
Yeah.
So aside from the other silly stuff that I mentioned, being able to do that was pretty cool, and then put our academic hats on that we were learning and apply it, and then actually go deploy it in the field. A few of us got to go see on a rig, and so that was like actually pretty meaningful and something we got to experience.
Yeah. No, that's, I think we'll get into the academic side of this here in just a second, but I think it goes without saying that you're starting mud school, you're with these people, you're sharing a common experience. It's a great time to build your network.
Yeah.
These are people you can keep in touch with, you can reach out to when you're having trouble or you feel like you're on your own. Doesn't matter who they're working for. These are people you can study with, but also, that's why it's important not just to, try and, make the grades, but build those relationships. Go out to eat. Go, even if, look, some of these guys, like, and certainly I saw this. I mean, there were some guys who went pretty hard at night, and we're not in the best condition for a hard day's work. Like there were certainly a lot of people, who, and I'm not saying you can't go out with them or whatever, but you don't have to do that to be social.
Right.
And so,
and I'll echo that because after mud school, again, I was kind of laughed at because every day after mud school, instead of going directly to the hotel bar, I would go to the gym because it was important for me to like work out and stay consistent with blah, blah, blah. And then maybe like once every 3 or 4 nights I'd go to the bar, but there was a core group of people who would go every night, and it was almost like they felt like they had to like fit in and be cool and whatever. And I mean, I get that. And then some just enjoyed the social aspect, right? Which is totally fine tue. But to your point is like, you don't have to do that to, then be successful and be part of like, a successful cohort. Because, in the oil field, it kind of has that reputation of go out and, go to the bar and do this and that, but it's not absolutely necessary.
Yeah, I got that. But yeah, so I guess sort of the mud school itself, because part of the question is how to be successful. I think some of it is the getting to know people and having conversations, so you can sort of kick around like, I don't understand this. Especially like, there were a lot of derrick hands in my mud school, and it was super helpful that they could explain things about the rig, me having not really been on one.
Right.
And then, I had just gotten out of college, and so like there were, some concepts that sort of as a degreed engineer, it was like easier for me, and okay, I think I see how this works.
Yeah.
So we were able to sort of complement one another. But with respect to going through the curriculum, if you will, I don't know about yours, but ours was sort of broken up into, we do some like different topics, and then at least probably twice a week, I think, we would go into a lab and kind of do some exercises related to that topic. So if it was hydraulics, we would use a 6-speed viscometer and calculate PV and YP. Or did you have some lab? It sounded like you had some lab stuff that you guys did.
Yeah, and I want to say it was more front-loaded with sort of the first few weeks was like heavy in the books, and then I think we did a module where it was only focused on lab stuff.
Okay.
And then we would go back, but it seemed like the structure was slightly different. And I know at the time, if memory serves me correctly, they were sort of trialing a new sort of way of approaching mud school. Because we got to do quite a bit of hands-on, and because in Grandview, we had the warehouse, which was close by, which is Bowie, which was servicing the Barnett. So we got to spend a lot of time at the warehouse, riding along with field engineers.
That's great.
And so it was a little different from what I understand, and then listening to some folks. I mean, because again, it wasn't in Houston, so it's not. If you did one in Houston, you may have not had the chance to go to a warehouse or go to rigs regularly. Whereas we did, which is why they strategically put it up in Grandview to be close to where all the activity was, to get us some really sort of hands-on experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was good.
Yeah, and no, I mean, certainly the hands-on stuff is big. Even if you just do the whole mud school and you pass with flying colors, like it's important to get out there and ride along with somebody and tie what you heard to what you're gonna see.
Yeah.
And so there's always a little bit of sort of, some training wheels that you put on and kick off over time.
Yeah.
But as far as concept wise, I guess I'll share my experience, and you can tell me what you saw. But like, we had the basics first, like what a drill string was. Get everybody on the same terminology, functions of drilling fluids, those kinds of things, right?
Yeah.
And then you would work your way. We worked our way into, drilling fluid systems. So water-based muds and different kinds of water-based muds, oil-based muds and those different kinds.
Yeah.
We had a section, and I'm trying to go from memory here, and it's been a long time. You had sections on like hydraulics, solids control, contamination and treatment, and a lot of that was in the lab, where you'd see how properties change by contaminating a fluid, and then how to treat it out and what it looked like.
Yeah.
And I would say that probably the hardest part for me was the math part, where it was all like pencil and paper with a calculator of solids calculations of annular velocities and hydrostatic pressures and that sort of thing. And I just got out of college, and like the last classes I'd taken that had math were calculus type. So like having a number as an answer was like, it can't be this simple. And I was actually talking to one of our coworkers who he's got a PhD in petroleum engineering, and he's like, yeah, I could barely add in mud school. Like he was like, the math was the hardest part. And it was just, but I think it was just trying to get the mindset of like the basics. But
yeah,
what happens is doing it by hand really helps you think through like volume calculations, especially things that you need to do like on the fly.
Yeah,
you do it enough, it gets beaten into you. And so like mud school is good for that.
Yeah.
And then I guess we had to memorize a lot of the products and their functions. That was a big part too, is just like flashcards of like, and these were trade name products along with generic.
Yeah.
So it was also like get sort of company knowledge.
Yeah.
But how does that sound like it may or may not parallel to some of the things you experienced?
Yeah, actually very similar. Again, I think the curriculum was taken from like a traditional mud school, with the addition of a little bit more like warehouse and operations stuff that we got exposed to. But yeah, very similar. And I think, tying it back to the question we had is, how can you prepare or set yourself up for success? I know a lot of people who've gone through mud school, and then even going into the one that I did, sort of took it for, I guess they approached it with sort of a loose mindset in terms of like, it's mud school, like how hard could it be? I'm going to be and then they say, mud engineering is, but I think they took it lightly and didn't realize the actual workload that it was going to take to, depending on your goals. If you just wanted to go in and get the paper, then yeah, you probably could have slacked off and not really put, as much effort and still maybe pass, maybe not.
Yeah.
But like we had a gentleman recently go through mud school, and he didn't realize just the workload and the amount of studying and hours it took to actually succeed and do well. And so I would say, that's a long way of saying, I think having a mindset is like, you're not going into an 8-week socializing setting to where you might do a little bit of schoolwork. It's like you're going into grind for that 8 to 10 weeks, and you're not going to have much free time. The gentleman who went, he said, yeah, I thought I was going to have time to, do this and go out and hang out and maybe do some, play golf or like hang out. And it was like, I would literally get home from mud school, have a quick bite to eat, schoolwork till 10 o'clock at night, go to bed, wake up, do it all over again. And even on weekends, it was like not much free time. And so I think going in with the mindset of, get your head down, get in the books, and don't go there just to socialize and have a good time and go to the bar. Because if you do that, then there's a good chance that you're going to struggle, and the outcome may not be great. And so I think having that sort of approach is extremely important. Don't take it lightly, because it's pretty intense.
Well, and I mean, I would add a couple of comments. One, I mean, we had people who, like, you could fail. Like, they could, after 3 weeks, just say, look, you're not getting good enough grade. We had a test every Friday.
No, actually, you say that. We had a guy that never finished because he was struggling, and just the instructor said, look, I don't think this is for you.
Yeah, so, like, it was basically an early on way to kind of determine who they thought could make it.
Yeah.
And then the other part of it now is, you can get through a mud school and everything, but, like, there's just, depending on where you're at and what time in the industry, like, there may not be a ton of jobs to go around, especially at entry level.
Yeah.
And so you want to stand out. And that means getting, how can you go to mud school if you're not already employed, or if you go and you want the best opportunity possible? It's to get the best grades. Like, that's, normally they recognize the person who got the highest average in the class. And, sometimes even these, like the mud school our company works through, like, we'll ask for recommendations. They'll say, hey, this person did really well and they don't have a job. And so, like, just understand it's also a way to separate yourself, that commitment.
Yeah. That's competitive out there. I mean, I don't know if anyone's going to mud school, they may not be looking at the market too much and knowing exactly what's going on. But, with rig count where it's at and where it's sort of heading, it's not like, we're going to be back to 1,000 rigs anytime soon. So a lot of times they were just trying to funnel people through mud school to put them on rigs. Well, now you might have to be tippy top in mud school to even get a shot on a rig.
Yeah.
You may end up going into a warehouse for 6 months or a year before you even get a shot at being a mud engineer.
Sure.
And so, I guess tactically, kind of going back to the question, to be successful is like, put in an immense amount of effort. But on top of that, like, depending on your background, if you do have an engineering background, say through school, or maybe you have a technical background, or maybe you were, a rig hand, like, having that kind of helps give you a little bit of an advantage to where the learning curve isn't as steep. I was fortunate. I'd been in the mud industry for several years, and I had an education before that. So a lot of that, a lot of it I already knew, and so I was an advantage. So maybe if you have aspirations to be a mud engineer, maybe see if you can go work for a drilling contractor for a year first.
Yes,
that will improve your skill set, just understanding drilling operations, and then going into mud school, and then you're quite a bit more marketable too.
Absolutely.
To a mud company if you've got rig experience. Now, not everyone has that opportunity. It's not like you get to pick and choose. But yeah, I mean, if you're going in this green and you've never stepped foot in the oil field, spend a few weeks before going to mud school, like using, ChatGPT or something like, hey, I'm going to mud school. What are some things I need to know? What are some, like, maybe some modules that I can sort of work myself into, like, getting a lot of the stuff I should already know, kind of get that out of the way. That would be helpful. Just put forth the effort even before stepping into mud school.
Yeah, well, and I think use internet resources where you can sort of get some background independently. There's a lot of great stuff on YouTube.
Right, yeah.
There's this podcast that could be pretty helpful.
Listen to every episode.
Yes. And then, I think ChatGPT is kind of the new one that I think some of us take for granted, where you'd be like, explain this to me like I'm 5.
Yeah.
Or, and I do this all the time when I'm like struggling to understand an aspect of a technical paper, or I feel like I'm missing something. Be like, hey, this graph is weird. Can you explain it to me as if I don't work in this industry?
Yeah.
And it'll be like, okay. And it'll use like some childish metaphor. And it's like, actually, that you dumbed that down perfectly. Like,
yeah.
Now I really understand. And of course, oil field stuff, it's not perfect, which is why you want to check it. But 9 times out of 10, it's probably going to give you better background. And you're seeing that, AI tools in particular, LLMs, just across the whole realm of education are dramatically improving outcomes.
Yeah.
And so I think, this is no exception where you could be like, hey, I know engineering calculators are tough. Can you give me a weight up problem and walk me through the solution after you do it yourself?
Yeah.
So you basically have like a little tutor that could make up the numbers and then check them for you.
Yeah.
Cool stuff like that. So
for sure.
Yeah. Wish I would have had that. But
you're stronger for it.
Yeah. Back in my day, we didn't have.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I think this all comes around to like, I think asking the question is helpful because it suggests diligence.
Yeah.
You're already asking, how can I be successful? That means you're looking to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a great place to start. And then I would just encourage you. Not everything comes to everyone easily, but that's why you can form study groups. That's why you can, put in some of the extra work. But if you take it seriously, I think you're probably going to do pretty well. Yeah. But it depends on how far removed you are from school too, right? Like all of a sudden you got to break out algebra again, or chemistry, or, and so those things, there's going to be, understand that like, the concepts aren't as difficult, but there's going to be a bunch of dust to brush off, even if you have a background in some of these things.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's a good point. I mean, from my perspective, I don't really have much else to add, Matt, in terms of, how can you be successful in med school? It goes back to the good old sort of cliche, is like what you put into it is what you'll get out of it. So if you go into it with like a winner's mindset, then you want to succeed and be the best in your class, well, you're gonna have to put the time in and probably knock with a bar every night. So
yeah, and I would just add, like, it's tough, but it's those rigors sort of prepare you. And the other thing is, a lot of them will take you through a dozen different kind of mud systems, and you just get sort of overwhelmed. And it's like, yes, you need to learn them for the sake of doing well on the test or whatever. But most areas, you're probably only going to run a couple, and you'll get really good at those with some hands-on experience. And so, like, don't get overwhelmed. You hear all this stuff, you're like, I got to know all this before to like be successful on a rig. It's like, no, you're getting everything out of a fire hose so that you could go to 15 different places and get started, where you're going to go to one place and you'll focus in and kind of hone your skills from there.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you brought that up, because if you were expected to memorize everything that you learned in med school in 8 weeks, I don't think anyone's brain's capable of doing that.
That's
so
a lot.
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah, have some realistic expectations of how much you're absorbing versus how much you can apply for the test to at least do well and then move on. But good question. Again, it's kind of fun to go back through memory lane. And if anyone out there has any thoughts, questions, or you want to share a funny story from mud school, because I think like mud school has more funny stories than you have serious stories. So,
yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, it can be definitely a fun time, especially when you're starting off in your oil field journey. But with that said, folks, please connect with us on LinkedIn if you have any questions, thoughts, ideas for a show. Ask Matt or I, or you can reach us at the Flowline podcast at aesblues.com. Connect with us on YouTube. Check out the website. Until next time, be safe out there. Cheers.
Take care.
Thanks for listening. Please tune in next week for another exciting episode of the Flowline. And remember, may your returns always be full and your trips always smooth. Views expressed in this program belong to participants and not their employees. The program is for informational purposes only and cannot take the place of seeking professional advice. Copyright AES Drilling Fluids.